For numerous years on the gosh dang DARPA internets, I've talked to people about the fact that most people don't understand what the fuck the peace symbol is. And what you probably think it is wrong. And most people react poorly. Most people will try to rebuff what I said with a superficial Google search. Somebody did this the other day, and I usually don't remember the year, but this is only because it's fairly recent. And a lot of other kids, and this is another point to bring up. Many years ago, kids used to rebuff what I said with the olive oil story having to do with Woodstock. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you could look up this garbage. It's fucking garbage. But only in the last, I'd say 5 or 6 years, people have been starting to bring up the nuclear garbage having to do with 1958. And you can look that shit up too, and it's garbage. What I point people to are numerous sigils that are all interconnected, having to do with shit that predates both Woodstock and 1958. But that's what people assume, because that's what most people repeat, and that's what a superficial Google search will urge you to repeat. Now, this jazz here, this kid, he's rattling off, Happy New Year, blah, blah, blah. I'll leave this on here. And this is the video. It's just super, right? And this will load eventually because I'm connected to the network in my house and I'm using 5G. Right? Or did he block me? I have no idea. Usually he doesn't. He hasn't yet. Well, that's going over really well, isn't it? I told him March 21st is the new year. And then I left another comment on here there we fucking go. God, this stuff's efficient. And then I said, think about it. And then the words didn't come out right because I was talking to the fucking DARPA Google garbage. It should say, would the new year begin when everything is still cold and damp? I want you to think about that. People celebrate the new year, typically speaking, December 31st, going into January 1st. Does it feel like there's a whole bunch of light and life on January 1st? Does it? I understand March 21st can be cold sometimes. It still can be, and it can still be damp as well. I am well aware of that. But it's sure as shit not as fucking cold as it is on January 1st in terms of the cycle that we celebrate. It would come up if people were fucking thinking for themselves. Now think about the peace symbol. Whether you're thinking of the circle with the broken cross in it, or if you're separating your pointer finger from your middle finger. If you are dividing those two things, you are not bringing them together, which means it does not represent peace. Whether you believe in the 1958 shit, or you believe in the fucking granola garbage having to do with an olive oil story during Woodstock, it is not intuitive. You are separating those two fingers. This is why in the age-old renditions of saints and what have you, priestly figures and what have you, godly figures and what have you, the middle finger and the pointer finger are side by side, parallel. Because that denotes union, and that is, in fact, peace. Another superficial example I've rattled off before is you can watch that pedophile Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump when he's saying goodbye to Jenny, and she's leaving in a bus, if memory serves me. I haven't seen that crappy film in a very long time. And if you look closely, Tom Hanks doesn't separate his pointer finger from his middle finger. And you can watch both hands because he does the same gesture that you'll see in age-old images and esoterica having to do with saints and what have you. Instead, both of those fingers are side by side. He raises one, he lowers one, because piece above, piece below. As above, so below. And it's in the fucking programming because our masters are laughing at us. They understand how this shit works. And people that you and I are surrounded by certainly do not. I'll complain about things like the 4th of July. Every single 4th of July, idiots pop off firecrackers. It's a telltale sign every time you hear a firecracker pop off that you and I are surrounded by very, very dumb people. King George did remove his troops from the States, But he continued to collect taxes on his vassal colony, on his crown colony, because America is in fact a crown colony, just like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the list goes on. And America is actually the bottom of the trilateral city-states on top of all that. And you won't find people who know these things because people don't know these things. Typically speaking, you'll find morons out there. You'll encounter them. And I used the word rebuff earlier. They'll rejoin. They'll retort. They're going to try to tell you that you're wrong. They're going to tell you, well, that's not in the Constitution. Do you think our masters would write something like that down if they were in fact using you and I as slaves to put bread on their table? And the reason I throw out the 4th of July example is you and I are being manipulated at every fucking bend. Those are 3 examples. The 4th of July, the peace sigil, and New Year's. People shop around fallacies. People do not know what they're talking about. When you get this gang of idiots together, they pat each other on the ass and tell each other that they're shopping around positive vibes only and doing the right thing. Meanwhile, that campaign is in place to pave the way for more patently fascist censorship. It's a censorship campaign. Just think about it. Just think about it in terms of this. What I'm going to leave online today, this will probably have next to no traction on the DARPA internet. Because I am not saying flowery fucking keywords that are that aren't filtered. That's one way you could think of it, by the algorithm. In other words, if you can't speak out against something and something is in fact wrong, pick something that you know is wrong in your heart. And imagine the flip side of that being promoted, screamed at the top of everybody's lungs, most people's at least, from the top of the tallest fucking mountains and buildings. Just picture something that you are invested in, that you know is absolutely wrong, and something that you know is absolutely right, to parallel it. And imagine most people shopping around the dog shit. Most people fucking each other up by extension and not realizing it. And imagine you not being able to at least try to point them in the direction of something that does fucking represent something, that does reflect reality, does mean something, and isn't in place to fuck them up. And imagine a few of them seeing it, not thinking about it, and reacting instead of researching. I'd like you to think about the ingredients in an alchemical work. Something where you need every single fucking ingredient in order to be successful. Now, if that's a reach and you don't believe in alchemy, you could think of a recipe. And some of you may cook. If you do, think of something and think of the basic, the bare minimum ingredients that you need to make whatever that is that you've cooked up in your head. Yeah? Now apply that to what I'm driving at, which I know this isn't the best way to put it. I haven't eaten yet today. Ironically. Sort of. What people are shopping around are incomplete outlines. So imagine, if you will, that they mean to make or bake or cook whatever you've thought up, but they are not using all of the ingredients, which means there's no chance that they're ever going to be successful. They're not going to do it. Most of them are, in fact, so lazy, they're not going to complete the process anyway, so they're not going to realize that they failed at the task, and that what they have are, in fact, wrong and or missing ingredients. In a number of cases, another way you could think of this is our masters are training people to dash out the door and buy rocks. And buy, what's something else that's absolutely ridiculous? Broken shards of glass. And this is what they're told that they probably should cook with. And this is what they talk about. You know, they run around and they talk to each other about how they're going to cook this amazing dinner with these rocks and broken glass. But they never follow through because it's all a talking piece. So they never realize that they don't have the ingredients. And they've been sold a pack of fucking lies. Horrible analogies, but it does get the point across. The other bit I want you to appreciate is I uploaded the rant that this is going to be associated with to TikTok. It's been sitting on here for a while. I just tore apart a skateboard. 0 people have been shown it. 0. I have 7 free gigs on this phone at the moment. which means what I'm recording should not be stopped at any point in time. But it has numerous times over, and I've recorded this probably 6 or 7 times already. The video in question, I uploaded it to TikTok. One person saw it, and 10 to 1, it's the same person that clicked on the profile, and it's only because we were talking earlier, and it has to do with a different post and something else altogether. Ooh, what do you think the likelihood of me being right about this is? Doesn't show me, so maybe it was somebody else, so maybe I was wrong about that. All right, so the other bit I was going to rattle off and what I already recorded numerous times. When I save videos from TikTok now, it doesn't put the watermark on there, and it doesn't cap the whole video out with a little bloop and then showing my profile, which is very curious. Does that still work for you? Because it doesn't work for me. What you're about to see is another useless fucking TikTok video. And keep in mind, I could spell things out, and I have numerous fucking times for over 10 years. In case you're one of the many fucking retards who do see this video and say, well, what do we do then? Think for me. Step 1 is not to ask somebody else to think for you. Step 1 is to think for yourself. And most people don't get that far, which is why this still exists. So as it reads, if we were surrounded by adults willing to do the right thing, society wouldn't have been structured as a trap. And just to remind them, I capitalized the word think and left an exclamation after it. And if anybody responds 10 to 1, they're just reacting. They're going to whine at me about something, or they're going to ask me to think for them. Here's the pointless video.
Am I the only one that doesn't see the point of this anymore? Trading your time for money. So I'm supposed to give you 8 hours of my day for 5 days a week for the rest of my life? Am I the only one?
What makes me laugh, when I first saw this, and it's something I've complained about a lot, and I'm not going to spoon feed it to you in here, but I have left videos online for over 10 years explaining these things. You see the sigil on his left breast? Yeah? I bet you 10 to 1, nobody in here can tell me what the fuck that represents and why it's part of a major logo. Not one of you. And I've been leaving videos like this online a lot too. I'm not talking about the Merkaba. I'm not talking about an icosahedron. I'm not talking about most likely what you're going to react or with, or what you would rattle off on the spot. The point is to buckle down and figure shit out for yourself, because you and I have been manipulated, and what most people talk about is superficial dog shit. Meanwhile, what I'm calling attention to is no different from all the other crap that built up to this point, and why this guy is complaining about what he's complaining about. Our masters have hidden a number of things. Our masters have been manipulating you and I long term, well before you and I were even fucking born. And most retards out there would assume, and they would whine at me just like they would whine at you if you urged them to think for themselves. I don't have masters. I can do whatever I want. I'm free. Team America. Or some other equally retarded shit. Because they don't have the first fucking clue what's going on. Which means they've effectively worked for the very bastards who have put this superficial, version of society in front of us and told us to, deal with it. Live your life within these shitty parameters, etc., etc., etc. I'm being very lazy with my words right now. I'm looking at a bowl of soup that's rapidly cooling. I just ate a bagel. First things I've eaten all day. And I shouldn't have, but I caved in and I looked at this garbage. So I thought I'd record a video and leave it on the goddamn DARPA internet, and most people probably won't see it. And or think about it.